What is one of the longest running game shows of all time? Yes, Jeopardy. You're right. It's just a pen. It's just a pen. Anyway, hey there, Jeopardy fans. Ryan here doing, I've not done one of these before, a follow-up video to an existing video. So Jeopardy has been, I tell my story and I do workshops, presentations, and trainings about game shows. And I say, when I tell my story, I always do that Jeopardy was my original. And I think it's the original for so many people. Their first time dabbling in the game world. I think modern times, now it's been, I'll say like Kahoot is kind of the one that is the gateway into the game world or whatever with your students. But for a long, long time, it's been Jeopardy. So Jeopardy was my first game ever that I've done. And I have done, I can't tell you how many iterations and versions of it. And so I got a newer one for you today, which is always based, much like any sort of update, it's my same one that I just kind of updating, changing, make a copy and all that. And so this one, there's two differences. The primary difference is going to be scoring, and I'll get to that second. The first one is pretty much just a little bit of a changed look. You know, when you get a new app on your phone or whatever, you're like, oh, hey, it's got some new bells and whistles or new look to it, like, ooh, rounded corners and different colors or whatever. But hey, let's take a look here at Jeopardy. Like I said, for the first, not the main thing, but the thing that you'll notice a little bit is the look and feel to it, the look to it all. Sorry, I just changed the colors and some fonts at all. So on, if you do a re-download of this on TPT, you'll see some new fonts on there, and that gives a little bit more of a Jeopardy look. And the color scheme is a little bit more traditional, not traditional, more try to be able to spot on of what the television show goes. So I play with the colors a little bit. You won't see much else difference. And so basically, like you can see here, the opening slide, then you go through you put the different topics that are in there, but everything is going to be driven by what I call the big board or the main Jeopardy board. And so if I double click that, here we're going to see these two changes. Change number one, of course, like I said, is the color. The blues are a little bit darker, less yellowy, a little bit more orange on my numbers. Who cares about all that? Here, that's the part one. Part two is the one probably I get requested a lot, which is the scoring piece. For most of my games, I talk about how to be able to do scoring, and probably the favorite way in which that I like to do the scoring is to do the classic whiteboard. I'm here in my room, the camera's facing the other way, but almost everybody's got a chalkboard, a whiteboard, something like that, in which that we can be able to write stuff. And so that is where I like to be able to do my scoring. So I've built that into PowerPoint, even though me personally, I wouldn't use this, but I get requested about it, is can I have the scoring and the gameplay all combined in one? I'm trying to be able to see if I can add this to different games, and some of them it just isn't applicable because in order to be able to have a consistent scoreboard that will always be on there, that means you always have to have the same slide you're going to. So Jeopardy that works is because, as you can see here, I got my 5 topics and I got my 5 dollar amounts on there. So we're always going to be going back to the main board to be able to pick and guess. So if we're going to be always going back there, we can have the score on there. And so you can see I have the score on the bottom. Some of the other games are more linear. And so if we're going to be doing, let's say, Price is Right or Family Feud, we're just going to play one and then we're going to the next. And we're not going to be going back and such. So I'm trying to be able to dabble with some of the scoring pieces on there. I would love to be able to hear back as well, for those of you who want more scoring, or if it doesn't really apply to you one way or another or whatnot. So anyway, so here's the newest version, and what I'm going to be able to put up here, there's going to be up, I'm going to have 2 different versions available within PowerPoint, and this is going to have a scoreboard version and a non-scoreboard version. So if I put this into the slideshow mode, be able to see it pops up here, topics, questions, none of that has changed or whatever. In the upper right-hand corner, the link to the Final Jeopardy button. But down on the bottom, you can see how I have a place for 5 different teams, a scoreboard. I put 5 on there because I don't know necessarily how many teams you're going to be playing with. I think most of the stuff that I normally see and hear from folks is that they do somewhere between 3 to 5 teams on there. You don't need to use all of them, but I just wanted to be able to put 5 teams up there in case that's what you have. If you have more than 5, sorry, that's all that I built into this thing, so maybe go back to the whiteboard. But anyway, so if you don't want to be able to use, let's say if you're only going to be playing with 4 teams, then what I would recommend is just leave team 5 open over there. And so the game is going to be ultimately played, which is, let's say you go topic number 1 for 400. You click on there, as usual, takes you to the question. Next slide gives you to the answer. The big board button jumps you back to the main board, and from there it disappears and all that. So now you can say, hey, if team number 2 got that for $400, then what you do is I built this in where you simply just go to that digit. That'll be my 3rd digit, and I click 1, click it again, 2, click it 3, and click it 4. And basically all this is, it's one of these counters is what I kind of built. You know these guys, right? You do this little, like, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now, if you make a mistake and someone goes, actually, that was for $200, and you're like, oh, it was. Sorry, it was $400, but you did 6, and you're like, uh-oh. There's no going back. Well, there is, because you don't actually go back. You're just going to go forward on this number thing, right? And then so if I just need to go back to 4, I go 6, 7, 8, and I keep going over the top back to 0, and then you start again, 1, 2, 3, 4, if I need to be able to go back at all. Particularly you may want to be able to go back is because if you play the double Jeopardies and somebody wagers an amount and they don't get it, you can go back. And that's a whole different debate. Some people say you can wager or not wager. But anyway, but that's kind of how this is ultimately done. Who gets points? You can, again, there's different ways. If you see my other Jeopardy video, talks about how multiple teams can be getting points and such like that. I'm going to jump back out of here and be able to show you kind of what this is and how it's done. I'm actually going to zoom in a little bit on here. It's a bit messy, and the biggest, and so what I would recommend is don't mess with it because it is messy a little bit. So if I pull that down here, I'm going to show you down team number 1. This pile of numbers right there, that is the digits, 0, 1, 2, 3 through 9, all stacked on one another. And I've done the action settings that if you click on it, 0 shows up. You click on the previous number, number 1 shows up, and the other one disappears. It's kind of complicated, but basically click, click, 1 disappears, next one shows up. Appear, show up, appear, disappear, and start over. And she keeps going and going and going. I put 5 different numbers on there, and a comma on there to be able to just put the for the place settings. But that's it. Like, watch this. If I move this around, oh, hey, there's a 9, and there's a, you grab another one, and there's the 8 or whatever. So don't do that, right? Because you're going to mess up those locations of them. I just did undo and all that kind of stuff. And that's it. Hey, a lot of people like to be able to have their own team names. I definitely recommend that. And so I like to do the alliteration piece. Let's say if I'm doing history, I tell the kids they got to do an adjective, an adverb or something with the people that we're talking with. So I can do, let's say, like, oh, we are the wacky Washingtonians. The Wacky Washington, something like that kind of a thing. So that's kind of a neat way to be able to put their own team names on there. And so that will show up, and that's kind of a nice way to be able to do that. As usual, you got to be able to wonder what your job is. Is my job to be the MC in the classroom and I'm going to be running the computer? Do you want to have a student who can help with the computer and such? Because now if you're going to be doing the scorekeeping, now that's another element you got to be able to, I got to manage the game and the questions and the answers. I also got to be doing the score so it can get a little bit more stuff to do. I'm always a big fan about having somebody else do the scorekeeping for me. First off, kids love volunteering and all that sort of stuff and such and so. And like I said, you can flip back over to the 0. So if everybody does make mistakes, it's not that big of a deal and such. So anyway, that is in essence the update to Jeopardy. Feel free to be able to leave some comments. I'd love to be able to hear back, and hope you guys enjoy the update to this game, because this is Jeopardy! Game show guy Ryan. See ya.